So if you are feeling like the fun police right now, firstly, like give yourself a little bit of grace. Your body is hardwired for protection. It doesn't want to relax into, surrender into, or let go into this moment because it's fucking terrified of dropping one of the 8 million balls it's carrying. Put it another way, your not body is not interested in having a dance party or a tender moment of laughter, connection, or sex while it's trying to outrun 100 lives. Welcome to the Sex After Kids podcast, a place for parents to come and learn together about the sometimes bumpy road back into the saddle of their sex life after adoption, childbirth, or joining a blended family. I am your host, Sophia Ashley, certified sex educator and sex coach, mother and stepmother, and your totally TMI guide to becoming BFFs with your body and initiating easy, connected, and confident, naked, sexy fun times. Here we are, one part science of sex, one part mindfulness magic, and one part straight up real talk to help you find the spark in your relationship and yourself after kids. I am so glad you are here. Welcome back, friends, to the Sex After Kids podcast. As always, glad to have you here. Just a little reminder, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe or follow, leave a review, share it with a friend. It really helps us. And of course, it really helps the people that you share it with. One mom told me that she saw a noticeable improvement in her sexual connection with her partner and how she was feeling about their sex life after just a few episodes of this podcast. So it really can make a difference. All right. Couple questions to start you off today. Do you ever feel like the fun police now that you're a parent? You know, like you used to be carefree and laugh easily, and now anytime people try to make a joke with you, it makes you angry and frustrated and like you want to bite their head off like a velociraptor. Maybe you wish you were able to be more easygoing with your kids or like the playful parent, but you feel like it's always you who's setting the limits, holding the boundary, reminding people what's happening next, or basically like living out of the moment because you're trying to be one step ahead of the next need or the next meltdown. Fucking exhausting, isn't it? Especially if you feel like your partner gets to be the carefree or fun one and like you're holding down the fort and they get to just swoop in and play monster for a full 30 minutes and then leave you with the mess, having to clean it up and wrangle everybody to bed. What I was thinking about while reflecting on this episode, which is really about our relationship to pleasure, is that parenthood, if we let it, can kind of become a bit of a thief of joy. Like, on the one hand, it brings us so much joy to have these little bundles of love, to snuggle with them and marvel in how amazing and wonderful they are. And also in the current society that we're living in and the demands of parenting that we have, it puts us in a state that makes it more challenging to access joy. And we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about how that impacts your desire for sex and some ideas for what you can do about it. Because when we lose joy in our day to day, when we lose pleasure in our day to day, we lose desire, we lose our connection to ourselves. And it's actually harder to connect to others because we're so in our head or like in the future and in the past that a connection with someone else, even if it's our kid, even if it's our spouse that we love, can almost feel like an intrusion. And we get to the point where we almost lose our capacity, like our ability to hold pleasure in our body. It's almost like pleasure, and I just mean pleasure in all forms, can become like a trigger for anger and frustration instead of something that we open to and kind of allow into our body. And this all really makes sense physiologically why it feels like parenthood has stolen our joy. And there's a couple reasons that I want to talk about why that happens. The first is that if you have taken on a bulk share of the mental load, and I just do want to say that, like, even when both of you are working equally, there are 5 jobs for 2 people to do. So even if you are absolutely sharing the mental load equally, you could still be feeling this. And if you aren't, it's no wonder why. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But when you're in that place, your brain is constantly on the go and you're in a place of being 10 steps ahead of yourselves all the time. So, as the kids are playing with Play Doh, I'm thinking about how long we can do this before I need to come up with the next activity. Or while we're doing story time, I'm making a mental list of all the things I'm going to get done when they finally fall asleep. Or I'm thinking about when the next diaper change or when is and when the next nap is, when the next meal is and what I'm going to fucking cook, who has to do homework and what emotional state everyone is and how I'm going to make it better. In essence, I am not here in the present moment, landed in my body, fully present with the people around me. I'm either doing 5 things at once, or I'm replaying something in the past, or I'm literally already in the future. And it is pretty tough to be present and connected to joy when I am living in the future all of the time. I wonder if you can relate. The other piece here is like this living in the future, multitasking all the time, as well as operating on fumes instead of 8 hours of sleep, puts us in a low level state of stress all the time. And then when you add real, like not real stress, but like acute stress, that comes from like nervous system overwhelm, you're layering stress on stress, right? So when you're living in the future constantly, multitasking, you're already stressed. And then you add 3 people trying to talk to you at the same time while the Moana soundtrack is blaring and you've got noodles on the stove, or someone getting hurt, or being mid-fight with your partner, or a real deadline looming at work. Stress on stress. All that means is that we're pretty much in a tight state of fight or flight most of the time if we're not aware of it and working with it. And the third piece here is that it can be a self-perpetuating cycle, especially for those of us who go what's called hyperactive as a stress response. So if you think of a scale and there's sort of like neutral in the middle, some of us, when we get stressed, go hyperactive, which means we do more to get more of a sense of control to deal with the stress that we're dealing with. And some of us go hypoactive, which means we shut down, zone out, and just like freeze because we can't handle everything that's happening. So for those of us who do more, who go hyperactive, we create this self-perpetuating cycle where we are busy. We want to feel more in control to manage the feelings of busyness. So we add more to our plate, more random, stupid things to be in charge of. That's my mode. Can you tell? Which just adds more stress to our plate, which just heaps in the cycle. And all of that brings us further and further away from this middle neutral ground, which makes it harder and harder to allow pleasure in. As you're basically creating armor. Your stress creates armor towards pleasure, and towards anything that's not going to solve the threat. And you struggle to act. So if you are feeling like the fun police right now, firstly, like give yourself a little bit of grace. Your body is hardwired for protection. It doesn't want to relax into, surrender into, or let go into this moment because it's fucking terrified of dropping one of the 8 million balls it's carrying. Put it another way, your not body is not interested in having a dance party or a tender moment of laughter, connection, or sex while it's trying to outrun 100 lions. So, what do we do about this then? All this living in the future is making you feel like a shitty parent, a shitty partner, a shitty person. I have been there, friends. And if your desire for sex, for pleasure, and for play are nowhere to be found, how do we get out of this loop? Do we just care less? Do we just lower our standards? Do we fake pleasure till we make it? If we are the partner who's more goofy right now, the one who's always trying to get the other to kind of lighten up and relax, what do we do? Is it enough to just take some things off their plate, to just tell them to relax, to invite them to just leave the dishes? Here's what I want you to consider as we're thinking about solutions to this problem. The answer is often the thing that we are avoiding. I'll say that again. The answer to our problem is often the thing we are avoiding in that moment. So, in this case, the answer to the stress you are feeling, the answer to your lack of desire for sex, the answer to your lack of feeling fun is the very thing you are avoiding, which is pleasure. Pleasure is literally medicine for your body. And let's break that down and talk about how and why. So, on a nervous system level, your body is avoiding pleasure because it is in the opposite nervous system state. Okay. Your body's like, hello, I am busy being all stressed out over here. Fuck off. I don't have time for this pleasure shit. Your body cannot be in a fight or flight response and a rest and digest response at the same time. And most of us think of this as a bad thing, as in, I'm always in fight or flight. So rest and digest or pleasure and relaxation are not open to me. But I want you to think about it instead as an opportunity, because intentionally focusing on creating pleasure in the moment when you are stressed will actually be the switch that flips your nervous system and brings you back into rest and digest. Choosing pleasure in a moment of stress will be the antidote, the medicine to the stress that you are feeling. When we're stressed out, our body's literally creating armor to fight the thing it's afraid of. So our muscles tense and tighten, blood flows to the legs and arms so we can fight or run. Cortisol and adrenaline start pumping, and our heart races. And when we focus on pleasure, maybe that's breathing deeply, maybe that's imagining a happy moment, maybe that's just letting everything go and like tuning into the joy of watching my son do puzzles at night. Then we bring brain chemicals in that help flush out the stress hormones. We invite our muscles to relax and open. Our blood goes back to our digestive system, to our genitals, and our heart rate relaxes. And it literally puts the armor down. It de-armors you so that you can be open to receiving the pleasure instead of having that shield up to it. I like to think of it as like, my husband tends to often, not always, be the kind of like more carefree one in our house. And when I'm super stressed and he tries to be like jokey, silly Dan, sometimes he's a little too deadpan and I just don't get it. But oftentimes my armor's so high, I like can't even fucking process the joke. And I just give him this look like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You're being ridiculous right now. Because I can't access that part of myself. And he's usually doing it as a strategy to be like, okay, let's like see the lighter side or whatever. But my armor's so high, I can't access it. If I were to take 3 deep breaths, or if he were to notice that and go, hey, let's take 3 deep breaths together, and like, now I'm going to try to be funny. What we need to do, right, is lower the armor so that we can access it. And the thing is, we get to have control. We are in control about where the armor is at. If we notice the armor is up, we can take it down. It's just about knowing what works for your body. We don't have to leave pleasure up to the whims of our body. We can oversee inviting it in, and we can oversee making room to receive it. It just takes a little practice. We have to learn how to take the shields down. When pleasure feels like a threat to the system, we have to gently whisper to it that this is exactly what we need, and sometimes invite it into the back door. So the thing I want you to take away here is learning how to work with your nervous system. I know it's fucking everywhere, but learning how to work with your nervous system, your own and your partner's, is critical to bringing more pleasure into your lives in general, but both in and out of the bedroom. And the more we do it in our day-to-day life, the more we will awaken the spark and the desire for pleasure and play and in the bedroom. And this is really a key skill that we focus on in the Naked Fun Comeback, which is my signature program for parents. So I want to be teaching you how to be using pleasure as the antidote to the stress that you're feeling, both for yourself, but both how to show up as a leader for your partner, to help them support their nervous system. The other piece that's really important here is our mindsets and our beliefs about pleasure. So many of us parents who are kind of caught in this future thinking, be 10 steps ahead of my kids and everyone around me, have fallen into a couple of mindset traps. We have fallen into the trap of thinking that we are responsible for other people's happiness, our kids and our spouse. We have fallen into the trap of thinking that we can only be happy when everyone else around us is happy. We have definitely fallen into a perfectionism trap, whether we're comparing ourselves to Pinterest perfect moms who give 150% to their children and completely eviscerate themselves on the way, or we hear our own mothers or mother in law's criticisms in our ears and we just want everything to be perfect. We've often fallen into the trap of thinking that a good day only happens when everything is seamless, no one has a meltdown or a big feeling, and we experience exactly 0 moments of stress. Anything less than that is not a perfect day. And it's like we're always striving for that instead of leaving room for reality. We often believe that rest and pleasure are earned, not that they are a necessary part of the medicine chest that keeps us healthy, resilient, and strong. And we really feel like the things that we want to do should come after what we feel we need to do. I used to think about it this way. So today, Sophia is constantly thinking about tomorrow, Sophia. If today Sophia does the dishes tonight, then Sophia tomorrow won't have to do them in the morning. If today Sophia makes lunches right now, then tomorrow Sophia won't have to do it. If right now Sophia packs some snacks before we go to the game center, then Sophia from 4 hours from now will avoid a pre-lunch meltdown with the kids. And I just want you to know, like, this is not a bad line of thinking. This is survival as a parent, and you can 100% make things better for your future self and smoother for your kids when you do a bit of prep work. An example of that is I'm learning all about how to work with my kids to create these little solver plans to prevent meltdowns. So, I get a lot of sibling jealousy right now, particularly my little 3-year-old. I was trying to do homework with my 6-year-old the other day. We're in the same room. I'm trying to read with her. I'm trying to give him half my attention, and he like whacks a toy dinosaur at us. And if I had taken about 5 minutes before I went to go read with my daughter to go up to him, look to him one-to-one, and say, hey, mommy has to go read with Mira for 10 minutes. What is an activity that you would like to do while I'm doing that? And what's a reward for you doing that activity without interrupting us? That is an example of that moment, Sophia doing a little bit of work so that I could actually read in peace with my daughter instead of managing a meltdown from my son. So these things are survival, and absolutely, like, packing the snacks and the sunscreen is going to save me a whole lot of trouble later on. But also, we can get to an obsessive point with this where we do it all at a pretty serious cost, not just to ourselves. Because honestly, the list of things that future Sophia has to deal with is fucking endless. And I could fill all day, every day with stuff I'm doing for my future self at the expense of ever being present for my current present moment self. And the thing is that the people around us notice it and we can feel it. Like I feel it when I'm reading to my kids and I notice I'm so zoned out that I'm astonished that I can actually like read the words on the page and not even be processing the story because I'm totally somewhere else. And if I feel that, guess who else feels it? My kids. And guess what happens when they feel that? I get more behaviors from them, more frustration. Then I get mad because the things that I wanted to get done after they went down to sleep aren't going to happen because I was counting my eggs before they hatched and nobody's fucking asleep yet. And then we've just had an awful evening instead of what could have been a really fun, present, and enjoyable one, right? It becomes a shitty bedtime. When I focus my brain on the joy of snuggling with their little bodies and reading the book with the utmost like gusto and enthusiasm that I can muster that night, we all have a way better time. And I really have to keep learning this lesson over and fucking over again, like all my children want is my attention. That is all they want. They are starved for it and they will take every fucking moment of it. And it's no wonder because of how much I might not be present for them in this moment because I'm working on the future stuff. Like, even for example, and I'm going on a rant here, but like, I've been working really hard to not be on my phone from about 5 to 8 o'clock. And I used to justify it by being like, well, I'm on the phone looking up gluten-free recipes like for my kids. And it's like, yeah, I'm doing stuff for my kids on that screen time at the expense of actually being with my children right now and giving them the one thing they need the most, which is not gluten-free recipes for cute snacks, as helpful as that would be. It's my fucking attention. When I deplete myself by living in the future for everyone else in my house all the time, I don't have anything left to give the real people in my house in that moment, nor do I have much joy or energy left for myself. And I definitely don't have any fucking energy left for sex and pleasure. When I don't show my kids what rest and pleasure look like, I perpetuate the very same stories that are impacting my own ability to embrace pleasure. And a really interesting tool is to think back to your own childhood and to think about, like, did you have a mom? Did you have a dad who had access to their joy? Were they fun and playful and present, or constantly stressed and whispering about money and complaining about work? What do you want to role model to your children about what they can create in their own life? I don't know about you, but I am done with the whole mom or parent martyr thing. Focusing on pleasure and deliberately recognizing and creating and welcoming joy becomes the antidote to these old shitty ways of thinking. And it's the way that we create new stories, and one of the smallest and most tangible ways that we can actually fight the really tough things that are happening around us right now. It's part of creating a culture shift across generations to recognize that pleasure is an inherent need of your body and not like a final add on once everything else is perfect. So, again, if you're finding yourself being the fun Felice, if you're finding yourself with absolutely no desire for sex, or if you've even struggled to want to connect with your partner, if you find you have a hard time being present in the moment with your kiddos or your friends or whoever you are with, and if you don't know how to fill your free time when you have it, other than with chores, this is your invitation to use intentional connection to pleasure in your life in big and small ways. And we're going to talk about some ideas about how to do that. And again, this is a foundational skill that we use in the Naked Fun Comeback to help you get that easy breezy, light, connected relationship that you want. But here's some things that we want to do. So the first is exploring your own relationship to pleasure. So I talked about some of the stories and narratives that are present here, but like, what did you learn about pleasure, rest, and joy from your parents and from the society around you, right? Is it something to be earned? Is it an indulgence, over the top, hedonistic, self-centered? Or do you truly believe it's a necessary part of your overall wellness? What stories do you tell yourself about pleasure and relaxation? I know for me, I definitely think of it as something that is earned, that hard work is more important than rest, that you need to just power through and deplete the shit out of yourself rather than taking that break that's going to boost you. Um, and there's something like indulgent feeling about it for me that I'm still trying to undo, right? It's like I still have to give myself permission to make that choice. The second piece is definitely how much future thinking and emotional labor or like mental load are you taking on in your home? Because you have two options here. The first is to share it more equally. So, especially if you are the higher libido or sillier or goofier parent trying to get your partner to lighten up, you need to start here. Are you actually taking on your fair share of the mental load, or is your partner doing all of that future thinking, which allows you to have more access to your pleasure? The book Fair Play by Eve Rodsky is a really great read. I would say for moms, it's a harder read for men. It might put you on the defensive. So I wouldn't start there unless you are already kind of familiar with mental load conversations. For guys, I actually really recommend an influencer named Zach Watson, who's an emotional labor coach for dudes and dads on Instagram. And I'll share links to both of those folks in the show notes. So, sharing the mental load is one of the biggest things you can do. If you are trying to support a lower libido partner, or if a lower libido partner, you are tired of being in this depleted state, sharing the mental load is going to be a really big game changer. Because you just quite simply need to be spending less time thinking in the future. And the second piece is to think about take a few of those things off your plate no matter what, right? So the first is, how do we share the load on the things that are non-negotiable that we have to think about? And then the second is to just do less of it. So, especially if you have a partner who won't share with you or talk with you about the mental load, you still have the power to set limits and boundaries around what you're going to do. And you may need to quiet quit and decide just like what you're going to let it go of for your own sanity. But you also might want to explore some work around boundaries. And I know this is definitely something I'm still working on. And this is like the fascinating part for me, right? Is it's like boundary setting is foundational to you enjoying your life, you enjoying your relationship, and you enjoying your sexuality. And this is not just about boundaries like I'm not into anal. This is boundaries like I'm not actually responsible for my 3-year-old's emotional state. I don't need to take on his tantrum and I don't need to fix it for him. I need to give him the skills to learn how to fix it himself, but I don't need to take on the blame for his emotional state and I don't need to tie my happiness to his happiness. And I think this has been really big for me, like, especially having a teenager. So our kiddo's been away with his mom for a couple months and he just came back and I'm just observing the next level of, okay, this is a whole other person where I'm thinking about, has he had his breakfast? Did I bring him the things that he needs before I leave the house? When are we going to do our homeschool session today? Is he going to be open to it? Am I going to have to convince him, right? There's like a whole other layer. And I've really been working on like, which of those pieces do I need to carry? And which of those pieces did nobody ask me to carry? And I'm just carrying them because I think that's what I need to carry to be a good mom. So this can be work that we need to do with a counselor or a mom coach or a dad coach, but like understanding those boundaries, understanding where we are over giving and over functioning, and taking accountability for setting our own boundaries, right? Because sometimes when we're over functioning, it has to do with like people making extra demands of us, but sometimes we're just doing shit nobody asked us to do. And it's about setting boundaries with ourselves. The last piece of advice I'll give here, and by far the simplest and most practical thing you can do, is just to become a pleasure activist in your own home. And a couple really great reads on this are Pleasure Activism, The Politics of Feeling Good by Adrienne Marie Brown, as well as Rest is Resistance, a manifesto by Tricia Hersey. And really, this is just about becoming like a champion of pleasure, becoming a champion of relaxed, present connection any fucking moment you can find it. And a couple simple tips are just in any moment, you can pause and ask yourself how to make this moment 5% more pleasurable. So I shared on my stories the other day, I spent the whole day yesterday doing that. And rather than just like plunking myself down at my desk to write for 3 hours, I put on some music, I lit a candle, I put some flowers in my space. And it seems superfluous, but it helps me to intentionally create a space, get more grounded, and land. I kicked my ass out for a walk in the sun, even though the stress in me wanted to stay at my desk. I had a flippin' amazing day with my children yesterday. We have been struggling with my 3-year-old. I have been struggling with my 3-year-old. I just want to call him a little shit asshole, throwing stuff just constantly at loggerheads. And like yesterday, I was just able to be so present with him, give him so much of my attention, not like hours and hours of it, just like when we were doing puzzles for 15 minutes before bed, all I was doing puzzles with him. All I was doing was complimenting him on how amazing and letting him know how much joy I get from doing puzzles with him. I wasn't thinking about this podcast episode or my upcoming course or like other things. I was just bringing myself back to the present moment. And the other piece that you can focus on is gratitude. Where our attention grows, things grow. And when we get stuck on complaining, when we get stuck on seeing the negative in our kids and in our spouse and in our life, we just bring more of that and highlight more of it. And so deceptively simple, but again, when we just practice thinking about 3 things we're grateful for our kids, for our husband, for our life, for ourselves, that just shifts the energy and the perspective back to pleasure. This is not about gaslighting ourselves when bad things or hard things are happening, but it's just about acknowledging the duality and being able to say, this is hard and I'm so grateful for the amazing food on my table. Or, my son is really challenging me right now, and I'm also like so grateful for the miracle of who he is and how he got here and his little amazing personality. Both of those things can be true at the same time. The last piece here is just like in moments when you feel exceptionally stressed and closed to pleasure, can you pause and notice that the armor's up and remind yourself to invite the pleasure in instead? And that doesn't mean you have to be open to your husband's joking. It just means that if you notice he's trying to joke with you and you're like, fuck off, you're like, okay, armor's up. Maybe I need to go take 3 deep breaths in the bathroom. Maybe I need to go for a run. Maybe I need to go get some sunshine on my face. What can I do to just like lower the armor by 3%? Okay, that was a lot today, but I hope what you're taking away is that this relationship to pleasure in all parts of your life, in all forms, whether it's pleasure you feel in your body, whether it's emotional or spiritual pleasure that takes you over, and whether it's sexual pleasure, they're all tied together. And stress is ultimately going to create that armor for you against it. And if you're feeling like your armor's up, if you're feeling like your sexual pleasure is hard to access, if you're feeling like orgasm is hard to access and your desire for sex is hard to access, this is not the only piece of the puzzle, but it's a very big one. And the more you choose to focus on and acknowledge the pleasure that's already happening and intentionally bring in more, you will start to see a switch in how you relate to sexual pleasure. It has happened for me. It has happened for clients that I work with. It is exactly what I teach. And I teach you how to do it for yourself. And I teach your partner to support you in that and you to support your partner in that in my group program. That is all for you today, my friends. I hope it has opened your eyes to some of the ways that your relationship to pleasure since kiddos is blocking your bliss and what you can do about it. If you are feeling like you're martyring yourself and you're feeling like the fun police and you want to come up with some solutions together that are more specific to you, make sure that you book a totally free reset roadmap call with me. And in 30 minutes, we'll map out your unique steps to get you back to naked, sexy fun times that feel great. The other thing I will do is pop in the links below in the show notes, the link to my Solve Your Sex Drive quiz, because no matter what struggle you're having, the results will lead you to a 15-minute practice that will help connect you to your pleasure, help you communicate more effectively, and help you to soothe your nervous system, and help you to just get a sense for the kind of work that I do and the kinds of skills that we practice together. I hope you have a lovely week, and I will catch you next time. This is the part where we do the end bit, right? My friends, let's take a mindfulness minute here. Take a deep breath in Open that mouth and let out a big, deep, full body sigh. Voila, your nervous system thanks you. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope that your head and your heart have something new to consider, something new to talk about, and something new to try. No husbands were harmed in the making of this podcast, and a big thank you to my husband for his help and original music composition. Love you, babe. This podcast was recorded on the traditional territories of the Kwanlin First Nation and Tonquachan Council in Whitehorse, Yukon. We acknowledge and are grateful to the original stewards of this land where we get to play, live, and raise our children. You can catch me on the Instagram at the Happy V Project for tips, tools, and anecdotes. And you can also join the weekly-ish newsletter for dispatches from my bedroom and my brain. Also, head to thehappyvaginaproject.com to learn more about how you can work with me. Catch you next time.